Welcome everybody to session 6 of FileMaker Group Therapy for Citizen Developers. Today's topic is styles and themes. Our agenda for the day is to first understand styles and themes, then to learn how to apply styles to layout elements, including parts, objects and object components, and objects. We're going to learn about object states in this process as well. And then lastly, we'll learn how to create custom styles and themes. Now, to first begin to understand styles and themes, we have to know the problem that they address. The problem is that we all spend way too much time formatting individual elements on multiple layouts. I think you all can agree. And one of the solutions that we have with regards to formatting is styles and themes, because styles and themes help us maintain consistent formatting across layouts. Every file includes themes. They're included with every FileMaker database file that you create. And every layout is assigned a theme, whether you proactively choose the theme or if you just take the one that was given to that layout. Every layout is being governed by a theme. Those themes provide a set of styles, a collection of styles. And those styles provide formatting attributes like font, font size, color, bold, shadow, you name it. There are dozens and dozens of formatting properties that the styles can remember and apply when we apply styles to objects. Now, if you want to look at this in a hierarchical kind of a structure, we can look at it this way. A layout could have a theme applied to it called sophisticated. That theme includes styles, potentially many styles, for each object type. I've just shown a couple here for the sake of space. So that sophisticated theme might include with it, for let's say edit box type fields, two styles, a style called default and a style called minimal. And then each one of those styles can store multiple properties, or does store multiple properties in its style definition. Things like font, size, style, times 16 bold, corner rounding, fill color, no fill color, and so forth. Now, if we apply styles instead of directly formatting our objects, which is what most of us have been doing for a long, long time, applying direct formatting to each individual object on a layout. But if we choose to adopt styles-based formatting instead of direct or manual formatting, and we can apply styles to parts, like the header part, the body part, the footer part. We can apply styles to objects on the layout, like fields, buttons, portals, web viewers, charts, etc. We can even apply styles to the whole layout background. If we do that, then redefining a style, changing its property values, for example, adding bold or changing the font color or the fill color, will update the formatting of all elements that use that style across all layouts. That's a powerful tool in the fight against wasted time in building up and designing our layouts and in maintaining consistent formatting across those layouts. Okay. Any questions at this point?
Nope.
Okay, fantastic. Then let's get in and do some. I'm going to switch into my FileMaker databases. Those of you who are on the mailing list and got the reminder yesterday about today's webinar also received as an attachment to that email message this file. If you didn't get it, I'd be happy to send it to you later. Just shoot me an email saying, hey, send me that file, and I'll get it to you. This is just something that I put together very recently as a kind of a place to practice our work with styles. In this database, I've just created two simple tables and two simple layouts, the data layout and the choice layout. And I'm going to go into layout mode. And the first thing I want to show you is how we can apply a different theme to a layout. Under the layouts menu, when you're in layout mode, the change theme command allows you to apply a different theme to a layout. You can also use this button right here as a shortcut. I'll go ahead and click that now. And it brings up the themes that are available to us in every newly created FileMaker 19 database. I specify 19, that's the present version, because the collection of themes that were included with previous versions of FileMaker has been very different. Themes have evolved just like so much of the rest of the software. And you can get a quick preview of what these different themes look like. I would advise you to, when you're choosing a theme, choose one that has a corresponding touch version, like this Luminous theme has Luminous Touch. The touch the touch themes are going to be best suited for your touch layouts. That is, your layouts that are destined to be used by your iPhone and iPad users. The buttons are bigger, there's more padding in the fields, makes room for using our fingers instead of a mouse pointer on those kinds of layout objects. There's also minimalist and minimalist touch. We'll talk a little bit about those later because they are significant in one regard. I'll go ahead and apply the Enlighten theme to this layout, and you're going to see how it instantly transforms into a whole different look. The colors, the fonts, so many different design changes have been made by applying a different theme. Now, each theme comes with a certain number of styles for each type of object. Okay, it comes with a certain number of styles for each type of object. I'm going to go over to the styles pane of the inspector here. And when there's nothing selected on the layout, you can see the styles that are available for the layout background. And this Enlighten theme included only one style, default, for the layout background. That style name, default, you're going to see it over and over and over again because every type of object and every part, everything that you can apply a style to, FileMaker Incorporated, Claris Incorporated has provided a style called default. And there's something very important about that default style that we'll get into in a little bit later as well. But let me just select some of these different kinds of objects. And when I selected a text object, you can see that there are a couple of dozen different styles available for formatting text. If I select an edit box type of field, we see that there are 3 styles available for edit boxes. For drop-down lists, likewise 3 styles. For pop-up menus, similarly 3 styles. Checkboxes and radio button sets have a couple of styles to choose from. And if I were to apply a different style to this radio button set here, this field being displayed as a radio button type object, the formatting of that object changes. Going back to default, applying the default style, and it changes back. Now, I'm going to bring out a couple more fields from the field picker, some of the same fields again, in fact, making sure that they come out vertically stacked with labels to their left. I'll just bring these out over here. Okay, and I want you to notice that when you bring out fields from the field picker or from the field tool or insert field, the labels, if you choose to have labels come with, the labels that come out are automatically assigned the default style. But there's a red arrow over here that indicates non-conformity. It's saying that this object doesn't conform to the style defined in this default style. And what we can do is we can capture that change or capture the difference there into a custom style. Now, we're going to go kind of a quick overview of for the big picture so that for those folks who are going to watch this video later and only going to watch the first couple minutes, they'll get the main idea. And then we'll dive deeper into the particulars of styles-based formatting. Okay. So I'm going to take that first text object here and use it as an example for a new style. Clicking the red arrow for the default style, we can say save as new style, or notice save changes to current style, which would basically cannibalize default and make it use the right alignment that's inherent on these text objects, on these field labels, that's not part of the default style. But I don't want to. I want to save my own new style, make it a custom style. And I'm going to call this one text form field label. When I name my styles, I always include the name or some indication of the type of object that that style is applicable to, because unique style names are required, even across multiple object types. In other words, if I had tried to use the name of a style that obviously that was here, it would bark at me and say, no, you can't do that. But these are just the styles available to text objects. However, even if I've tried to use the name of a style or the name for this new style for another kind of object, like for a pop-up menu or for a button or something like that, and I used the exact same name, it would still bark at me and say, no, you've got to use unique names. And so that's why I like to precede my style names with the object type, in this case, a piece of text, and then the description about what purpose that style is going to serve. The name of this that I've given it reminds me this is going to be the style that's appropriate to use for my form field labels. I'll say OK there. And now I'm going to go and apply that style to all the other text objects. Well, let's say all the other field labels, because I have some other text objects down here, this descriptive text that is not right aligned. This one does conform to the default style definition. I'm going to take those field labels and apply to them that new style. There it is, text form field label. There. Now all those objects are using that style. We can see that here as well, and there's no red arrow next to the style name, indicating that all the selected objects are truly conforming to what that style defines. Okay. Now there's a red arrow next to the theme name. We'll get to that in a moment. That's simply saying that I've made some changes to the collection of styles that came included with my Enlightened theme. And so this rendition, if you will, of the Enlightened theme does not conform to the one that was originally provided in this database. And so later we'll save the changes to that theme as well in a custom theme. Over here in the other pane now of my tab control, I'm going to place some text labels above these portal fields. I'm just going to click over here and create a piece of text that says text, bring it into place. The style that was assigned to a new text object, just like the new fields that we brought out earlier, was default. And this one is pure default. It's not right aligned like these field labels were. And likewise, I'll make another column heading. And I'm trying to line these text objects up with the left edges of the fields beneath them. I think I've done a fair job. Let's just double check that. We'll say align by the left edges. Yep, that was good. And likewise, align left edges. Okay, fantastic. But you can see at a glance that the text really isn't lining up. The left edges of the objects are lining up, certainly, but the left edges of the text is not, because these fields, these edit box type fields, notice edit box here, edit box here, they have some padding in them. Padding right down in this area here of the appearance inspector allows you to insert some cushion between the outside edges of the box of something, the frame, and its contents. And we see that there are 6 points of padding on the left sides of our edit box fields. That's defined in that default style for edit box type fields. Well, I think it would be great to add 6 points of padding into the labels that I'm going to use for this kind of thing, so that the words in my labels are lined up with the left edges of the words in the fields. And all I have to do is get the objects lined up to each other. So I'll put 6 points of padding in there. Now you probably are already imagining that that would have caused the arrow to go red here on the style, because indeed I've just changed. Let me double click here to make this text object expand a little bit to fit the new content. I've just changed the formatting. I've done what I've told you not to do. That is, I applied direct formatting onto an object, changing its padding. But I did it because that's how you are able then to go and create new styles. I'll click the red arrow for the styles menu, choose save as new style. And this one I'm going to call text colon space. And this is going to be for column labels, right? Portals display in columns. The fields are in columns, so column label. Also list type layouts will, column labels will come in handy there. And we'll capture that newly designed look as a new style called text column label. I'll come in and apply that style to the other column label. There's the right style. And now it takes on that changed formatting as well. Double clicking on it will increase its size so that it's appropriately sized for its content. All right, I'm going to save the layout changes at this point. And then let's see some other manifestations of styles at work. What if I were to create a new text object up here in this leading grand summary part? Well, if I click up there and start typing, let's say style guide, you can see that, well, that text looks very different than the typical text that appeared down in the body part. What style did it get? Look at that. FileMaker is clever enough to assign a style called leading grand summary text to text that starts its life in the leading grand summary part. So that's pretty nice, that it will automatically apply the style that's appropriate for the part that you create the text in. Now, if you move the text around later, of course, it doesn't adopt a new style on the fly. It will maintain the style until if you want to come in and change it. But I think that text is too small for its purpose. So I'm going to go over here to the appearance pane of the inspector and increase the font size up to 18 point. There we go. Reposition that a little bit. And of course, applying that direct formatting now has made it so that this one text object is out of conformity with its style. And so am I going to save the changes to the style? Yeah, in this case, I'm going to save the changes to the style because rather than creating a new style, I liked the little magic that FileMaker performs by applying the appropriate style based on where I created that text first. And I think in every layout that uses this enlightened theme, text that I put in the leading grand summary part should automatically look like this. So I've just captured that changed style now, changing the definition of that style. Having made those changes, I want to show you why and how styles are so powerful. I'm going to come down here and find a piece of text that is still using the good old default style. Okay. This is unadulterated, pure default text. And I want you to see that FileMaker Incorporated, I keep doing that, Claris, in their infinite wisdom, has based this whole styles logic or engine on the web technology cascading style sheets. Cascading style sheets involves inheritance from one style to others. There's a parent style, the default style, of which all other custom styles that you create are children. That means that if we were to change something about the default style, as I come in here and let's say I change the font to Courier. I would never use Courier. Well, I can say that. I would rarely use Courier in real life, but it's going to be a very noticeable change for you all visually, right? That's obviously different looking than it used to be, which now has caused this one text object to be out of conformity with its default style. But if I save the changes to that style, you'll notice that all the other text objects have just changed to Courier, including my leading grand summary styled text object. They're all using Courier now. That, ladies and gentlemen, is why you should be using styles for your formatting, because from one place, making a change to an object that's based on the default style, you can see that change not only affect all other default objects, but all objects of that same type that use child styles, because those child styles inherit from the parent default, right? The text form field label style inherits from default. The text column label style, there we go, inherited from default. So they're all Courier. Fantastic. Any questions at this point? Tom's got a chat question. Tim, which theme has A, the least overhead, and B, the least chance of being deprecated in the future? Well, to answer your second question, I'd have to be a fortune teller. But the first question, the least overhead, the minimalist and minimalist touch themes are the ones that come with the least overhead because they don't have any custom styles built. For example, here, if I select a piece of text, the Enlighten theme came with these couple of dozen custom styles that are all children of default. The minimalist themes come with no custom styles. So, and I'll mention this again later, that's a reasonable choice to use as your starting point so that you can build up your styles completely from scratch. Yeah, very good question. Any other questions at this point in the game? Okay, so now I've made all these changes to styles. Okay, created some new styles for some for different for text objects, and that has all been happening just on this one data layout. And the theme applied to this layout, Enlightened, at this point is out of conformity with the Enlightened theme that exists in the whole file. And so I have two choices. Really, only one. Well, okay, two choices. I could revert and just blow away everything that I just did, but I'm not going to do that. Or I could save the changes to the theme. Now, these two commands look different, but they are actually the same. They're identical. And here's why. Claris does not allow us to save changes to their built-in themes. So even if I were to choose Save Changes to Theme, it would actually save a copy of the Enlightened theme. It wouldn't save it over the built-in Enlightened theme. You'd end up having two themes in this database file that are both called Enlightened. That gets confusing, in my opinion. One would be in a category called Custom. The other would be in the built-in categories. So I would suggest that you never use Save Changes to Theme for a built-in theme, because you'll just end up with a custom theme called the same thing, which could lead to confusion. Rather, give your new theme, because you know this is going to create a new theme. I promise you it will every single time. Give your new theme a name right from the get-go instead with Save as New Theme. I'm going to call it something that reminds me what type of device this theme is good for. Desktop, because I'm going to have another theme for my touch devices, for iPad and iPhone layouts. I'll call it Touch. So we'll say OK there. Now I've got this new desktop theme, and as I go back to the Change Theme command, you'll see that it's up here in the category of Custom. All right, fantastic. Saving the layout. And at this point, let's take a look at the other layout. It's still using that beautiful Apex blue theme that was introduced with FileMaker 19. I'll go in and change the theme. Layouts, change theme. I'll give it the desktop layout, that newly defined and saved custom layout. And the whole layout changes its look. Again, you'll notice that changing the formatting of objects doesn't change their size. The size of something has nothing to do with its formatting. So you may have some resizing to do as you apply different themes and styles, as you've seen me doing. Just double clicking on a piece of text is a good way to get that text to auto resize, unless you had at some point had stretched it manually. In that case, it keeps its custom size. Okay. Now, Tom asked about the themes with the lowest overhead. You can see that this our custom theme here has all of those built-in styles. Let me go and change the theme once again. Okay. And oh, I wanted to do something first before I did that. Sorry. This object is using the default style again. So you notice that when you apply a theme, it defaults the objects on the layout back to the default style. I'm going to apply that text form field label style to it. There we go. That made it so that right alignment is built into the style definition and maybe a few other attributes. And I'll save the layout. Okay, so again, this object has that new custom style applied to it, but now watch what happens when I go back and change the theme again to the minimalist theme. I'll use minimalist touch just so we can get a sense of those touch themes and how they make everything bigger, right? And so the whole look and feel of the layout changes. I'll make the field bigger, make the text object bigger by just double clicking it. And we can see that for any given object type, this minimalist touch theme and likewise its counterpart, the minimalist theme, use or provide only one style, just the default style. Okay, I'll go ahead and save that layout changes there. And let's move on into our animal care database. This is the one we've been building up over time. And I'm going to go to layout mode here, and we'll see that this layout and all of the layouts in this file, all 30 layouts, are using a customized version of the sophisticated theme. Okay. In the Styles Inspector, again, with nothing selected, you see the styles that are available to you to apply to the layout background. But if you click this Show All checkbox, it'll actually list for you all the different styles that are available in this theme for all the different object types. For layout parts like header, body, footer, leading ground summary, trailing ground summary. For shapes like rectangles and ovals. For edit boxes, that is fields that are using the edit box display style, drop-down list, pop-up menus, checkbox sets, radio buttons, and so on. The list goes on and on through all the different object types. Okay. And I can't quite get, there we go, down to button bar and buttons, bring up the last choices there. So you can get a sense of what styles are available no matter what type of object there is just by using Show All. But generally speaking, don't work with Show All turned on. Okay? Rather, just select an object or a part and look at the styles that are available to it. Now, I want to make a quick note about parts. The different parts, header, body, and footer, you'll notice as I click between them, they're all using their default style. I haven't changed anything about these layouts from what you get when you build the layouts by default. But the header part is filled with this dark gray, and the body part is filled with this creamy tan, and yet they're still using the default style. Well, that's because there's a different default for each part type. There's a different default for each part type. While I've got the body part selected, looking at the default style, we see that its fill color is this creamy tan color. For the header part, however, it's using its default style, which is this charcoal gray. And so despite the naming scheme here of it not looking like there's more than one default style, there really is more than one default style for the different parts. Okay. All right, let's go to work on these fields here. The name first field, I'm going to just make some design changes to it. Let's say that I round its corners a bit, maybe go with 8 points of corner radius, and I give it a drop shadow, an outer shadow, horizontally offset 1 point down, 1 point right, and we'll blur that shadow a little bit. Okay, so we get this look. Now, what style was that object using? It was using the default style in the sophisticated theme. And so now, if I save the changes to that default style, what would you expect to happen? Will all of the edit box type fields change to rounded and drop shadowed? Indeed they will. Save changes to current style, and look at that. Most fields change, not all, because this is not an edit box. It's a field, but it's being displayed using a different control style. It's using a pop-up menu, and pop-up menus have their own collection of styles. They have their own default style and others, right? As opposed to edit boxes that look like that. So there's a lot of work to be done when you're defining your styles, because there are so many different object types, but the work will be well repaid by the time savings that you gain later on. For example, if I come back in here, it's not going to take too long to round off the corners to 8 points and to provide an outer shadow likewise, 1 and 1 and a blur of 2. There we go. And then I'll save the changes to that style. And so now the default pop-up menu style has the rounded corners and the drop shadow as well. Okay, I'll save the changes to that layout. And likewise, well, I'll save the changes to the theme. This time, because I know I'm using a custom version of the sophisticated theme, I will choose Save Changes to Theme. Okay. And that says, well, are you sure you want to do this? Because that will make these changes that I've made to the style definitions on this layout global to all layouts that use this same theme. And yes, that's the whole point. That's absolutely the point. I want to make it so that all the other layouts that have edit boxes or pop-up menus on them will change to this look. And if we look through some of the other layouts, saving the changes to this layout, look at that. Fantastic. All right. Tom's got a question in the chat that says, I can't seem to change the default height of the edit box in the body part. What am I missing? Well, I mentioned earlier, and it bears repeating, Tom, that changes to formatting do not change sizes of things. Changes to formatting do not change sizes of things. The only things that are incorporated into your style definitions are things that you can change from this appearance pane right here. Nothing from the other 3 panes, particularly the position pane, which is what you're asking about, Tom, right? Height and width are not formatting properties. They are properties of the object. They're not formatting properties. Only what you can set in here in the appearance pane of the inspector can be captured into a style.
Yeah, that is a pain. Thanks, Tim.
My pleasure, Tom. I'm glad you asked. It certainly is worth bringing that up, because it's a frustration, but that's just something that we don't have the ability to change globally. I'm thankful that we do have styles, but they don't work on sizing or positions of things. Okay, let's take a look at another kind of an element here. But before we do this, I want to just switch back into my PowerPoint deck for a second and talk a little bit more about custom styles and themes. I mentioned as we were building those custom styles that the styles feature in FileMaker uses cascading style sheets, which is a very popular and wonderful and beloved web technology. The name cascading style sheets implies inheritance, and rightly so. Okay? Custom styles are based on the default style for that object type, and they inherit from that default style, as you saw in my examples there. Now, some tips to get the most out of your custom styles. Try not to break the flow from default. Here's what I mean. Since you know that the default style for each object type is the parent style and all other custom styles are children of default, you don't want to break the flow. If you change a property in a custom style, it will sever the inheritance of that property from the default style forever. Let me give a practical example. If I changed the font face in my text form field label style, then whatever font I had chosen there would supersede and be the font used for that type of object, even if I were to change the font in an object that was based on the default style, even if I were to redefine the default style. Things like font and corner radius and border styles and thickness and color, those kinds of things, try to not change them in the child styles. Because if you do, as soon as you make any change to that one property, you'll never be able to see that property inherited down from default. And the beauty of styles and of cascading style sheets is the inheritance characteristic of it. So in other words, in custom styles, endeavor to avoid changing common attributes like font and border and padding. Next, to reduce the clutter, and I loved Tom's question from earlier, try to consider maybe starting from your minimalist or minimalist touch themes because they don't have any custom styles in them. They only have the default style for each object type. Therefore, they only have the parent. Any new styles you create will be children of that parent, and you won't have to delete any styles. There's no clutter, no overhead, as Tom put it. They include no custom styles, so you can create your own custom styles. I would also encourage you to try to choose fonts that are common to the Windows and Mac and iOS platforms. And to help with that, here's a website that lists the fonts that are resident in Mac OS and iOS. And then if you're familiar with the Windows default fonts, you can kind of narrow it down to those fonts that are available on all three platforms. Nowhere could I find a list of all three platforms, at least that I would trust. Okay, Dawn's got a question. She says, I cut and pasted some text into an edit box and it maintained the style of the original text. I can't seem to change it. Cutting and pasting oftentimes results in text being pasted in and being formatted, right? So if we were to take some formatted text and paste it in, it will probably come in its formatted format, especially on the Mac. Windows is better at the Windows version of FileMaker is better at this than the Mac version. Now, as an example, let me create some text here, just junk, and I'll format it using directly applied formatting. We'll come in, change the size and style. Okay, so now it's no longer truly default looking text, but you might try this, Don. Simply go in and with that object selected in either the appearance pane of the inspector or the styles pane in the inspector, you can see this and do this from either of those two. You can go to the red arrow next to the style name that's applied and say revert changes to style. In other words, make this object conform to the style definition again. Revert changes to style, and it goes back to what the style would dictate that it should look like. Try that, Don, and see if that cleans off the formatting applied to that text. That sounds like it worked. All right, fantastic. Okay, I know I've only got 6 more minutes, but I want to show you something just ridiculously cool about styles, and that is on more sophisticated elements. For example, let me go to this layout again. I'm going to insert a top navigation part. Top navigation parts are great for button bars. So I'm going to add a button bar to that top navigation part and use it to hold buttons that we're going to use for navigating around. Let me see if I can get just the right size on this. I'm not going to fight with it. I'll just size it manually. And I know the size that I want is 30 points tall and 768 wide. And I want it to be right up there in the upper left-hand corner. All right. And then in the button bar setup, I'm just going to add a couple more segments to it. And that's 5 segments. Segment number 1, I'm going to call it home. Segment number 2 is going to be customers. 3 will be visits. 4 will be veterinarians or vets, and 5 is going to be lists. And on 5, I'm going to turn that from a button into a popover button, which is just remarkable that a button bar allows you to make one or more of its segments, one or more of its buttons into popover buttons instead of regular buttons, which can give you the appearance of a drop-down menu, right? So that when a user clicks my list button, it's going to display this popover in the same way that we get with our drop-down menus on traditional menu bars. Okay, fantastic. So I've got my main button bar there. I'm going to add in another button bar into the popover so that it becomes like a menu. This is going to be a vertical button bar though, and let's put the icons on its right, and we'll add in a couple more segments there as well. I'll stretch this out. Maybe to about like so. And the first one is going to be called services. Second one will be materials. Next one will be vendors. And so on. I use this kind of technique for all the support lists, the lists that generally are there to provide the source for your dynamic value lists. Let me just go through and quickly apply icons to each one of these of the right facing arrow. There we go. And then likewise back up on the main button bar, I'll give each one of those icons, but to their left. And I won't take the time right now to assign pretty looking icons, but you certainly could. Okay, so a button bar is a pretty sophisticated device. It's made up of a lot of different pieces. And when you select the button bar, the styles pane shows you the styles that are available to you in your applied theme. Let's look what the body button bar style would make it look like. Okay, that makes sense. That'd be great for button bars that are in the body part, but default's a little closer to what I have in mind. And then, but I think that would be nice if we had maybe a bottom border under that thing that was a couple of points thick and there was a bright white color like that. Okay, so now this button bar no longer conforms to the default button bar definition. So I'm going to save it as a new style. I'm going to call it, and I'll use a little bit of abbreviation here because sometimes these style names can start to get a little bit long. I'll call it button bar : nav bar to remind me that that's the right style to apply to a navigation bar. Okay, and then I'll come in here and open up my popover, and I think, okay, well, here's another button bar. Let's apply to it the new style button bar nav bar. That puts a white bottom border on it, but that's just silly, right? A white bottom border on a vertical button bar doesn't make any sense. Let's go back to default. And for this one instead, I'll create another custom style. Yeah, I know there's a lot of custom styles going on, but like I said, it'll be well worth it. Now I want to point out something that when you select just the button bar, the object type menu right here says, okay, you want to work with the button bar, and it lets you change formatting. There's not many formatting attributes applicable to a button bar, basically just line, just border. But the button bar segments, as I click on a segment of the button bar, now the object type menu here goes to button bar segment, and you can apply, these are all the different components of a button bar. The dividers are the lines between, the segments are the buttons as we would think of them, and the icons are the icons within those segments, right? And so if I want to work with the segments and want to change the color, for example, or better yet, let me just make it so that the segments are left aligned. Paragraph alignment, left. They get really crowded up here, but it looks much sharper now, at least, than it used to. I'll just add some padding, maybe 6 points of padding on the left-hand side and likewise on the right-hand side so that the icons are pushed away a little bit from the right edge. Oh, that's a sharp looking menu. So now let's capture that as its own style as well. Save as new style. I'll call this one, like I did before, btn bar : and I'm just going to call this one menu because it's kind of serving as a drop-down menu type of a functionality. So now I've got these two button bar styles, the nav bar and the menu. I've got them applied to the appropriate button bars. I'll save the changes to the theme. That's good, yes. And then I'll save the changes to the layout. And then, of course, I'm just going to go and copy that button bar onto a bunch of other layouts. Let's put it over here. We'll insert a new top navigation part and paste and make sure that button bar is right up top left. Good. And then I'll go to another layout, go to our visit layout and insert a top nav part there as well and paste. Okay. And so with that, then we'll see that if I were to pop open some new windows, just to demonstrate, let's exit out of layout mode on that one. Okay, and come over into our animal form layout, and I'll make some changes to the button bar design, right? The segments are way too dark. We'll come over here and say, let's brighten that up a little bit. Maybe we'll go there and we'll change the font color to something that's going to stand out better against that, maybe pure white, not bad. What about the icon color? Well, icon color is involving a different segment. So I got to go here to the object type. I said segment, sorry, I meant component or object type, and change the icon. And let's make those icons white, for example, like so. Now, as I change the style, as I save the changes that I've made to this one button bar, making the style now adopt its formatting. It doesn't change on the other layout right away because I have to save the changes into the whole theme. As soon as you save the changes into the whole theme, that's when the changes take effect across multiple layouts. And that's the beauty of styles and themes, everybody. All right, we're out of time.